We just drove in from Dallas-Fort Worth. We had some great barbecue, and I Texified myself a little bit. I was a little too Canadian. Yeah. And I tell you, the drive from Dallas-Fort Worth out here was gorgeous, beautiful. It's so luscious green, I didn't expect it. I guess it's been raining a lot. But the one thing that struck me, even though it's so vast out here, is how industrialized this part of Texas is. And obviously for a very long time. We saw oil-filled pump jacks that are probably close to a century old. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about you guys. You've been living here your whole life. You're in the middle of nature, but you're obviously surrounded by industry too. How do you square the two?
Well, you try to keep the dogs from attacking your sheep. And you try, but then you have coyotes that do the same thing. And you just have to live with your neighbors. You
would be a hero to green energy activists because right. You've got the massive wind turbines. Right. But you got something else coming on your property next month. Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Right. Well, we signed a lease about 3 years ago with Tall City in Midland, and for them to drill on us. And their lease was to expire May 17th. And so another company bought their lease, and they're going to start drilling on us May 15th.
Drilling and then fracking exactly. The wells.
Right. They told me they're going to do a vertical well first, and then and they called it a scientific well. Maybe you know that language, I didn't. And I asked what it was, and they said, well, then they know, and they're going down to, I don't remember how far, but to where that then they can frack.
How do you feel about your property being fracked? Is it just normal in West Texas? I mean, I've been to parts of the country, both in the United States and Canada, where the idea of someone willingly fracking their land is considered impossible. Anti-fracking activists would suggest that you folks don't even exist. It's people who have lived on the land for, it's been in your family for what, 5 generations? Is that right?
Yes, we're 5th generation.
So 5 generations. You were born in that little house, and yet you willingly frack your land. What would you say to skeptics who say, stop, don't do it, you're crazy, don't do it?
We've asked lots of questions. I have a relative that's in the oil business, number of relatives that are in the oil business, and they are the ones that really kind of gave us a confidence and an assurance that the fracking isn't dangerous, and that that's really not what causes problems, the fracking. And even when they dispose of the water, that's not causing a problem either. And we've had one of my cousins is in the environmental business, and they take care of water, particularly from wells and that sort of thing. And so we've just had a lot of input that gave us a confidence and an assurance about that fracking was fine to do. And so then we signed our lease.
And I'm not looking to pry, but I am just so curious. Do you get paid based on how much power is generated? You get paid just for the land that these are on? How do you get a rate of return for having these huge things on your property?
We have a percentage of the profit, and so that's how they pay us, was by percentage of the power that they produce. Right.
And has that been worthwhile?
Absolutely, it has. I like having both because this is green, and it produces, and in West Texas the wind blows, so it's productive. We're hoping that the same will be for the oil, and feel that it will be. In fact, one of the construction people from Total Energy in Midland told me it isn't a matter, because I asked him the question. Franklin was in India, and I asked him the question, well, what if they hit a dry hole? And he said, ma'am, they don't drill anymore and hit dry holes. It's just a matter of not if, it's a matter of how much. And I said, okay, let's go for it.
We're down now from the hilltops. We were up there where those wind turbines are, and your house is on the hill overlooking it. And now we are at the frack pad that's about a month away from operation. Tell me a little bit about the actual land we're on. Is this your property as well?
Yes, we own this. And We own all of it that way.
What confidence do you have to proceed fracking the land that has been in your family for a century?
From my understanding, the fracking will not cause a problem with the land surface itself. And like I say, we have lots of neighbors around us that we don't want, to have their properties disturbed. And we're just up the road, so we don't want our property disturbed either. But it's my understanding that the fracking doesn't do that. There's some question about just, slight tremors maybe. I don't know, but I don't have any worries about it.
You were saying earlier that your family sold off land. Maybe it was when cash was in a pinch. Mm-hmm. Basically, if this fracking job goes I know a company doesn't put millions of dollars into a frack job they're not pretty confident about.
That's right.
So if this goes how they think it's going to go, you guys won't have to sell off any land ever again.
No, and that would be nice, because we want to keep what we've got.
Now, your family, the next generation, or is it your grandkids now, want to start ranching or little herd of cattle on the property too.
Right.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. They're living in the house that I was an infant in. So, yeah.
I don't know if running a small herd of cattle here is economic, but if the bills are paid by fracked oil, that makes ranching a lot more fun, doesn't it?
I used to say that, you have to make a living doing something to ranch. Yeah. Because you can't make it just on ranching. At least we can't, not on a small.
What that means is he'll be able to put in fences that hold his cows in. He'll be able to fix the water troughs and do a lot of things that so far are undone. So, yeah, it'll be a blessing. It'll be a real blessing.
Here we are at the front door of your house, and right outside I can see that big Alon refinery. The lights are starting to come on because it's almost sunset here. That's a view. It's also an industrial view. I mean, every single day you're reminded of where the jobs are, and that's where you worked as a young man.
Worked in the summer times there. It provided money to help put me through school. Now,
some people would look at that and say, even though it's sort of glimmering and gleaming, they would say that's ugly. That's a scar on the land. That's a defacement. That is something to be remediated and reclaimed. What would you say to someone who says that?
To us, it's beautiful. It provided me a job during the summertime. It provides many people in our community a job. It's not a problem at all. It's a real blessing. I mean, out here where there's not a lot going on, that refinery and the oil business is a big blessing and just about a singular blessing.
Now, it's funny because a lot of the folks who would say tear down that oil refinery, they would be fine with those 300-foot wind turbines on there. I guess it's all industrial development in your mind. I mean, it's all a way to earn a living off the land. It's all a little bit here, a little bit there adds up, eh?
Yes, and we also see it as a way of helping the nation. Electrical power and petroleum. As
in, if Americans weren't buying energy from Texas, they'd be buying it from OPEC countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's much better to keep our money at home. Everybody benefits from that.
Yeah.
Is that on your mind too, or are you thinking more of the family, or you think of industry? You're thinking
having lived in Big Spring, born and raised here, we've seen there was an Air Force base here, and then the Air Force base closed. Well, when that closed, we've seen the community almost dwindle down to. It's just begun in the last 5 years, 4 years particularly. The whole economy has been revived.
By fracking, right?
By fracking, by drilling for oil and all the truck drivers that are necessary. We've seen our little community of Big Spring, which is 25,000 people proper, plus the little towns around, transformed.
I thank you very much for this tour of your wonderful ranch. It's been fascinating, and I know you call it a little ranch, but where we come from, it's pretty big. Thanks,
Ezra. We thank you for coming,
Yeah.
and it's our pleasure to show you the property and to talk about it.
How about a glass of tea?